So welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for February 4th, 2021. We'll follow the agenda, which was in the issue within the TSC repo number 967. And before we get started, do we have any announcements that people would like to share? I guess one that I will share is that the 2021 Node.js user survey is open. So if you do get a chance, it would be great if you could go and fill that out. It helps us get some feedback from how people are using Node.js and kind of the current view of what's going on in the ecosystem. That's on the main website as the banner if you want to find it quickly. And I've also added the link in the announcements as well. So I'm just going to take a note there. Again, I will just for the TC members, just a reminder that the election for the CPC director, one of the CPC directors is open. We have 2 candidates who are identified in the issue now. And so if you have any sort of feedback, you can talk to Mary, who is our voting member and who will be, and cast, I guess, both Mary and Joe, who are voting members for the Node.js project, who will be casting votes in that election. And if there aren't any other announcements, the next section, CPC, I guess that kind of covers the CPC update that I had. So we'll move on to the issues that were tagged for the agenda. So the first one is 36111, TLS improve compliance with shutdown standard, remove hacks. So can't remember who put that on the agenda.
Matteo and Rich are in the wings.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay, so I think we're still,
Hi,
if I
everybody.
look at the end. Hello, how you doing? I think on that one, it still sounds like it's, we're hoping for James to give some feedback. He commented just a few days ago, so I think there's not really too much to discuss there unless somebody had something specific. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is number 33864, which is rename default branch from master to main or something similar. On that one, we did mention last time that GitHub has added some additional support to make that easier in terms of rebasing PRs and things like that. We recently renamed the primary branch to main for Node add-on API. And I don't know, Gabriel, I don't think I've seen any complaints or issues so far. How about you?
Nope, all good so far.
Okay. I know certainly for the main GitHub repo is going to be, we need to be the most conservative because there's lots going on there. I wonder for the rest of the repositories, we've got 190 different repositories. I guess a number associated with the working group, so we should probably let those be handled by the working groups. But for the rest of them, I wonder if we could just start renaming them. And with the hope that we probably won't see any issues, but if they are, in a lot of those repos, the impact would probably be pretty low anyway. I don't know what people think on that front.
Michael, you mentioned about 190 repos. A good majority of them are locale specific repos, right?
Right.
Which means if one rule applies to one locale, the same applies across for every other repos.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's that I don't know how many of them are those, but actually some of them don't even have a ton of things in them. I guess like, for example, on the OpenJS org, with much smaller scale, but we just agreed that let's rename them. And if there's something that happens, You know, for those other than, you know, there were not, in that case, there weren't any ones like the main node repo where we have to be much more careful. So we just did it. And actually, you know, we renamed them all. I'm just wondering if we could get, if people are kind of on the wavelength that for most of these, we could just go ahead and rename them.
Yeah.
You know,
Even for the repos which have high impact predicted, the impact is going to be internal among the collaborators, right? Either the script failure or confusion of landing the PRs, etc. There is no customers or end users going to be affected by this change. I'm just making, I mean, wondering about that.
right. I guess for people here, like if we made a list of ones that we think we should be more careful about, and then thought, well, the rest of them people could just go in. Like, I guess it needs to be, you know, one of the TSC members, but one of us just went in and renamed the others. And if there was something unexpected, we'd fix that afterwards, if that's a approach people are comfortable with.
Yeah. For example, I mean, sort the repos based on their increasing order of activities and start attacking the repos which with less activities and wait for a while to see what are the problems which they are facing, learn from that, and then incrementally come to the more active repos.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So the ones, I'm just taking a few notes. So like the working group repos, I think we should ask the working group to rename. I think node is one we need to be careful with. What are the other ones that come to people's mind that we should kind of put on the, let's do the other ones first? Like help, for example, Jarish, I know you're active there. You know, is there any risk of renaming that one?
For which repo did you say?
The help repo.
Yeah. I can say with confidence, based on the number of PRs coming there, it's pretty low, very low, maybe once in
Right.
a year kind of thing. So yeah,
So
if
that
at
one
all,
is, again, yeah, we should be able to just rename it, no issue, right?
yeah.
I think build might be one that falls
Symbolically,
into
we
the,
probably want to do the TSC repo like first or near the first.
I will volunteer to just do the TSC repo right after we finish here. So
Cool.
that's a good point. Are there others that we think are particularly, like, I just want to have a list of these ones, let's not do right away. The rest of the one, people feel, you know, it's kind of okay to say, just go ahead and do it. And if there's a little bit of a problem, we'll try and catch up afterwards, kind of thing.
Maybe we should be careful with the website repo.
Definitely, yep. I think that's a good one. Any
Probably
others?
both, just probably both of the website repos. There's node.js.org and there's node.dev or node.js.dev.
Okay.
I can look into the release one in the
Okay.
next day or so.
So yeah, that's good. I guess actually, yeah, we kind of want like a checklist even. We should create checklists that says which ones, and then people could volunteer for, but here, I'll take a quick note. Michael to rename TSC one, Beth will look to.
So Nikita has a question in the chat, which he's wondering if the branch protection rules persist when branches are renamed, and that is an excellent question.
Yes, and so node add, let me go to the node add-on API one. And if I go to branches there, I'm just, because I have this recollection of seeing something like new branch protections. So let me just see if I can find that. Where am I coming?
I'm sorry, but what is a branch protection rule?
So in GitHub, you can create rules for individual branches that like nobody can force push to this branch, or pull requests can't be merged to this branch unless the branch being merged from is up to date with the main branch, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thanks. Basically, a number of policies that are attached to a particular branch, whether that will be inherited to the new renamed branch or not.
Yeah, that I'd have to double check. Here, let me go and see if it says anything.
Mikhail has a screenshot for us that shows that when you do the update, it puts checkboxes next to the statement saying we'll update one branch protection rule that explicitly targets master. So it looks like it renames wholesale with all the settings in place.
Yep. Okay,
Right.
that makes sense. Where was that? Was that in?
It's a link in the chat.
Right. Okay, I think I see it there. Right. Yes, that's what I remember seeing something. So I think the understanding is kind of like it should rename pretty much what you need, except for it doesn't change local environments like it said. Also, things like GitHub actions, if they refer to branches, can run into trouble. And obviously, like it does redirects, but that doesn't mean it's changed things in your docs and all that. Those are the kind of things we like for the node add-on API one, we had to do doc updates, update some GitHub actions, and that was about it.
And CI, right? We have a CI job on ci.node.js.org, and you updated that
Right.
one.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and the CI job that pointed to the branches. So that's why I was kind of thinking like build is probably one we have to be a bit more careful with. Any other ones that of the branch, sorry, of the repos we think are particularly sensitive? I guess maybe I'll say just, add in, if there's any that come to mind, add in and keep that in mind if people go to start looking at renaming some of them, just keep in mind how big an impact it might have, and I guess also the if there's a team or group that manages it, we should make sure that they're in the loop before we do something. But otherwise, it seems like it is the right time to start renaming them. So I think maybe, yeah, if I have a chance, I might put like a checklist into the issue itself, but I don't know if there's anything else. That's pretty much what I want to discuss this week on that one. Anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss on that one? Okay, I'm just going to take that note from Chalker too, that README icons may also be, I guess actually probably that's good to put things that might be affected. Okay, so if not, we'll move on to the next issue, which was published packages to GitHub registry number 1410. That one, as I remember, we discussed, provided feedback, and I think maybe it's just we didn't take it off the agenda. So yeah, I see a comment that, yeah, this was discussed in the TC meeting today. TC doesn't have any concerns, providing Docker team has agreed that it's something we should do. So I think I'll just remove the agenda item unless anybody has concern over that. Okay, the next issue is any interest in an RFC process. I think, Rich, you were maybe most active in that discussion.
Yeah, Chris Hiller and I have been trying to connect for a chat about it, and we haven't yet. So I don't have anything to report, I'm sorry to say. I would like to know if anybody here has strong opinions that haven't been expressed in the issue. But
Yeah, I like the idea of trying to figure out how we have like the discussions at a level, like at a higher level before we get like an implementation that then somebody's invested a ton of time in. But I know earlier efforts haven't figured out how to do that either yet. So, but I think that's probably already been expressed there by various people. If nothing else, I guess then we'll move on to the next issue.
yeah, let's leave that on for next week, and I'll try
Yep.
to at least have a conversation with Chris and have something to say next week.
Okay, sounds good. The next one is the Apple Silicon Plan 886. I'm just gonna see, I'm just trying to remember why this is on the agenda in the first place. I guess, Matteo, you opened that, right? Do you wanna talk to that one, or? I know you were asking me last week.
It's more, so from my point of view, it's more to, I think our audience would really love to know more about our plans of shipping an M1 build. It's something that is coming up more and more on social media. It's something that's coming up everywhere. So
I guess even tagging it as a strategic initiative is your latest comment.
Yeah, again, it needs to be something that we need to report on. It's once, and if it's something that needs to have somebody owning it and delivering it for V16. So from my point, like, it goes to the point of it's really important for us to ship it. Okay, it's if we need to have some changes done before, it needs to happen before V16 goes LTS, essentially, and so V16 should be LTS with it. That's my take. So if there are some major changes that needs to happen or whatever, so essentially we need to be from a strategic dash marketing dash adoption perspective. It's critical, because a lot of a lot of developers will are starting to migrate to the M1s already, and they are asking for it. So if it's too hard, we can just, I don't know, we need to figure out some ways to.
Right. So I guess as for a strategic initiative, we need a champion to.
Yeah, that's the point. I am not I know I'm not part of that group. I'm not the probably person to champion it. So my reasoning, I just wanted to bring it to the wider team and essentially bring the attention to the problem. Essentially, that's the take.
I don't know if you're aware, but right now there's an issue that has a lot of comments because the M1 build, the ARM64 build for Mac doesn't work when you are working with WebAssembly. There's a problem in garbage collection with V8. And apparently many people are already using ARM64 builds, and I don't know why, because we do not provide them.
They do via NVM. So I was chatting with Matthias, and they are using it with NVM and Homebrew. So we support compiling it, and so with Homebrew released the binaries for Node installed via Homebrew have already the bindings.
So isn't that already a strategic issue that people think that we are supporting this architecture when we are not yet, and we are not?
Yes, that's the take. Yes, that's the TLDR of it, Michael. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, that's essentially that's what I was trying to bring up to the table, and you did it probably way better than me on the urgency of us considering the ARM. Yes, Electron as an M1 version already. So people are just using us with M1 with the binaries. We don't support them. It's not on our supported list of architectures, and it's people think it will just work as well as it does. So
I have an M1. I got one on Monday, and I tried to do my best to fix this issue, but now I cannot do more. So it's on the V8 side that it has to be fixed, and
well,
I cannot do anything else
right?
than pinging V8 people, but they do not answer. So I don't know.
Have you got what's the link to that issue?
I can paste it in the chat.
Yeah, that would be really good. If also in the documents, so at least we know. But again, my concern here is we have to promote this as a first move forward to get it as a first tier architecture.
Right, and I guess we need volunteers, right? Like I already have Ash from Red Hat IBM helping to move that forward at the rate we can contribute. If it needs to move faster, we need more volunteers.
I know. I've been trying to see if I can get somebody from Near4m. I couldn't.
So that's kind of where I think we're at. Is like, I from my perspective, I've done what I can to encourage and get like people from my company involved. It's moving at a certain pace. That pace may not be fast enough for people, but if it is, then hey, if they can come and help make it move faster, great. But we need more people to do that.
Yeah, that's fun. That is fantastic. The work that you guys are doing. It's more to raise up the concern of the situation, not to complain.
Yeah, so no, I'm not. I just want to make it clear to people that, like, hey, we need, if you really do want to make it move faster, it's what we really need.
Yes, essentially. To get involved, right? But so, we need also to send that message out.
Yep, exactly.
So which is also something that we are not communicating. Okay, it took me some time to find out that Ash was working on it.
Yep.
Actually,
I would definitely agree with we could use somebody to sort of champion it as a strategic initiative, and sort of, because there's a bunch of different pieces. There's like the build piece, and then like Michael's just pointed out, there's the piece about, well, does it actually compile and run? It did at one point, but that can change over time, right? And
yeah,
but that takes somebody who has enough time to think about it. And
it's I ordered one, so I won't put my name forward until I have a device, essentially, for obvious reasons. It doesn't seem, and I don't have contacts with this anyway. If I think we should leave it on the agenda and keep talking about the problem.
Yep.
It's not something that will solve it on this call, from my point of view.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, it's good to have it's definitely good to have it on the agenda, and that, like, hey, we think this is important, but we're not making the progress we'd like to make so far.
Well, it's not that we're not making the progress. So we are making the progress that we can. The community is asking us to go faster.
Right. Okay.
Which is, it's slightly different take. So yeah. It's we had to lock, like, the fact that we had to lock the thread is a sign. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reason we locked it is because it was people talking about how to get things, how to basically, it's like things unrelated to the thread itself, but it does show there's a lot of interest. That's for sure.
Yes, it's something that we should be. And
in terms of what Beth was asking in the thread, right? Like about getting like M1 machines into the CI, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but we get those machines from another company, right? Like they're just donated.
So that we actually have.
Oh, we have M1s in the CI?
Through our provider, they've graciously donated. Like, we have some of the I forget what they're called, SDKs or whatever. We had some of the early machines, so they've been in the CI for a little while. Although Ash has spent a fair amount of time, having to sort of keep them going, keep being re-imaged, I think, once or twice, so that we could upgrade to newer versions, because like the software stacks on them is changing more quickly than it would normally. So it's about spending enough time to get the two things, I think, I haven't been tracking it that closely, but the two things I understand is one, there was an issue in JIP, and I don't know if that's been resolved in terms of, handling multiple platforms when you build native add-ons. Separately, there's the issue that Michael just pointed out. I thought that, initially there were some PRs that actually got Node to be compiling okay, but it seems like other things have come in. And then separate from that, there's the build work to go through and flip our, change our build so that instead of building an x86 binary, they'll build a fat binary that includes, both x86 and ARM in it.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. So
okay. So it's the first time that we have a platform that has multiple architectures, and yet it's considered one platform.
Well, it's the nth time that Apple has done it.
Oh, okay.
Right, like they did it before when they went from Power to x86.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Node didn't exist at that time, so.
I don't know. I think is that because Rod was relating that there was actually this is the second time we've been through this.
Oh, okay. So actually,
and
Node
sharing
existed.
Experience that we like the fat binaries will mean that the binaries are bigger, but that's what we did before because shipping multiple binaries is more complicated for us, but not even that. It's also more complicated for the end users because now you've got to pick and choose your binary. So for the transition period, it just makes sense to take the bigger sizes, cost of doing business. And then, once enough people have switched over, you just flip it over to, going back to being just one of the architectures versus both.
Yeah, but it's going to take a long time. So
yeah.
So we need to keep supporting the x86 86 Max for like 5 years or something. So
yeah, like I mean, the plan is just to make the fat binary so that you'll have one binary that's good for both. But and I don't see
it's totally fine. I'm just I plan to potentially take a look at some of the problems when I get my machine. So
no, that's good. And I guess it's like the other thing too that we'll probably be faced with at some point is we're thinking about it to, like you said, for 16. So 16 would have fat binaries, but I'm not sure we're planning to backport that to earlier versions.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't. I would not be. From my point of view, like looking at the Apple releases. Okay, Apple does a big splash in June, and a big splash before Christmas. So reality is that it's if we are going like the largest machine, there's still not a 15 or 16-inch laptop on that lineup. So it's to be honest, we should planning to have something. Having something in next year for the end of the year in LTS for the end of the year it's okay from my point of view.
Right, and I figure, Apple's pretty aggressive about forcing people to the latest.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want the latest, and it's consistent in that model that no, you've got to move up to the latest LTS to get one.
Yeah, essentially yes. Essentially yes. So I would not, I would just say, but we need to have it. Essentially, we need to have the for 16. We should. Yeah. We should planning to have it. If we can ship it for 15, that will also be cool. But for 16, we have to.
Yeah, as Bethany just mentioned the chat, Ash, we only have DTKs, which I guess are not the new ones. I don't know that there's any issue with that. Like they were the early hardware. The providers said that of course they're getting actual new hardware as well, but they're going to give that to their customers first. Once they get through that backlog, we'll get some of those other like the actual new ones. But I don't know. My assumption is that the DTKs are fine, like will let us build what we need to. And in fact, actually, the DTKs those are really just for testing, because when we'll build on, pretty sure we'll end up building on x86, the binaries, the fat binary.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think if I'm not unless I'm remembering incorrectly, I think you can build it, on one, and you end up with something that will run on both. So, Yeah, we can ask Ash, Bethany. We could probably ask if she wanted to come and give an update. So you're saying DTKs are recalled in what sense? In the sense of you need to return them? Okay. Maybe that's something, Beth, we should follow up with Ash, and we can ask the provider if they're going to need to return them in the short term or not. They may be a little bit different in being, you know, quite a large sort of source of those versus like individuals, right? But either way, we should probably follow that up and make sure if they do have to go back, they'll give us some other ones. Okay, anything more on that one before we move on? If not, okay. The Node.js security working group, so potential stagnation. The one on the update on that one is we were talking to a couple of the companies that take reports today, and in terms of proposal to take on the backlog, we've stopped taking on new reports, but to take on the backlog, there has been some discussion this week, last week. I think I need to check back into whether the next action is on me or not. But we're getting close to the point where we'll have like a proposal to share with the TSC to say, you know, here's what's the proposal is for the backlog in terms of the, you know, people being willing to take that on or not. So I should be able to report on that next week. Okay, so upcoming meetings, or sorry, let's first of all look at strategic initiatives. So let's pop over to that. Just give me one sec. Sorry. Core Promise APIs. I don't know, Matteo, if there's anything to report on that side.
Nope, not at this moment.
Okay, V8 currency.
I have something about Core Promise APIs. Actually, there's a new pull request. I think it was opened yesterday that adds Promise API for crypto. And about V8, let me look back. There's an issue with the latest version, V8 8.8. I think it's in the debug build that it doesn't work.
Which platform is that on? Or is it a general non-platform specific thing?
It's on Linux.
Okay.
And here I don't know what to do myself, so I'm just looking for help. And apart from that, it's ready to go. It was reviewed and it's already stable since a few weeks in Chrome.
Okay, that's good. So I guess if anybody has some cycles to help and take a look, that would be good, it sounds like. But yeah, is that the issue there?
It's at the end of the pull request that updates V8.
Right. Okay, so it's a flaky failure that's crashing. Okay, I'll add that in the notes as well. Oh, you've already did. Great. Okay, quick we don't have. I guess quick HTTP 3, it'll be interesting to hear from James because quick was removed, I think, right?
Yes, there is going to be some news sooner rather than later. So cannot spoil right now, but there's going to be some news on this front. So let's keep it there for another week, and then we can have James talk about it.
Okay, sounds good. Start build resources. I unfortunately still, I don't see anything happening too soon on that. We raised the issue. We ended up talking to the board, but it's been a tough, I guess I would say it's been a tough economic time in terms of, trying to get money and funding and stuff like that. So I don't see that that's going to change. I'll have too much to report on that, but I think still worth leaving there because I do still hope at some point we'll be able to do something. And future of build chain, we don't have Mary today. So that's the things that we have on the list. The last issue, which, Rich, you'd mentioned in the issue itself that we can touch on, which was just the renaming of an API to Node API. We did have a little bit of a discussion at the beginning before everybody joined, and we thought it's worth touching base on that a bit. The discussion we were having was a little bit more about how far do we go. There was some discussion in the issue itself in terms of, do we just update the docs so that it's, an API was always Node API in terms of the name. It was just a short form. So do we, how far do we go in terms of changing that? Do we just update in the docs versus like actually adding duplicate symbols? Because we can't remove the old symbols. We could add new symbols. So one of the things I was just bringing up is this one in particular, at least my understanding is the association is not quite as direct as some of the other cases where we're changing terminology and language for the better. So, if we actually change it throughout all the docs and make it clear it's Node API, then when you see an API, it may be okay because you think that that's what that is.
Yeah, I think an API is fine as a variable name, as symbols, as things like that. Yeah.
I for one have started submitting like Semver minor stuff, meaning new Node APIs as Node _ API, so that when the symbol does land, it lands as such with Node _ API _ do something useful. So sorry, go ahead, Rich.
I just said even better.
Yeah. I mean, going forward, it's clear that we were going to drop an API _ in favor of Node _ API _ right, for new symbols. But the question is, do we hash define an API create Boolean to Node API create Boolean? Do we go as far as that, or is it okay to just leave it? Because like in the docs where it says where in English it says n-API, we can replace that with node-API. That's easy enough in English.
Yeah.
But the question is about the code. Like, do we provide this? Because then, if we do provide this, then things get complicated because, an API _ version would have to have an alias Node _ API _ version. And so now all the ifdefs in the header file have to check for either of those, right? And we have to keep them in sync and that kind of thing. So it gets pretty hairy pretty quickly, depending on how deep you go. So those are some of the sticky questions. Yeah. And so I'm kind of doing PRs sort of piecemeal. Like, for example, I just submitted a PR for doing everything in the tests. So that's completely user invisible, right? It's just us. But I guess we'll see some of these issues as I put the PRs forward one piece at a time. And then we could rule on each PR individually whether we need this or not. But it would be good to have sort of an overall direction.
Yeah, I mean, I would ask, in this particular case, if people would feel comfortable with the symbols just staying as they are, like basically leaving the programmatic parts the same, but changing anything like all the documentation references and things around it so that it's clear what it stands for.
Yeah, so the documentation stays as n-API _ create Boolean, but then the explanations around it say Node API, this and that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like basically the symbols would stay the same. And like you were talking about other things that are complicated, like some of the paths and stuff like that, right? So those would stay the same. But the things like the tests that you've changed, you submitted a PR for, like you said, that has no end user impact and helps to make it clear what it stands for versus anything else, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a mixed bag at that point, and new APIs will follow the new convention, but that's all we can do. We could say.
Yeah, and I guess here, like in this group, does anybody have any concerns with taking that approach with versus like, well, no, let's actually change all the symbols and stuff as well.
Yeah, I agree. From my perspective, this word and dash API itself is pretty technical term compared to the other words which we considered in the past about the master and things like that. And because we are changing in the documentation for the n-API to node-API, I think that's a very good approach. And the symbols which are internal to the code will not come for discussion in any of the public area. So I think that's a very good approach, practical approach, which we can do. I'm also looking at the issue 420. And personally, I do not like the proposals over there. For example, the alternatives mentioned about C API. Technically, C API and S API also have the same kind of problems. Like C API gives an impression that the rest of the APIs are not C based, and S API, stable API, gives another impression that this is the only stable API in the whole system. So, considering all these complexities, I think changing the documentation to Node API and retaining the code as is looks a good approach.
Thanks. Anybody else have any thoughts they want to add or comments? So I think, Gabriel, from my perspective, if we make the, I know you've already actively started to submit some of those PRs. My approach would be like, let's submit the PRs that change the docs and the tests and stuff like you did, but not plan to submit the others.
Yeah. I think I'll stop after the docs. The test is already in, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I'll do the docs next, the English portion of the docs, and then we'll see if that, once that's baked in, we can see how far that takes us and whether taking us further is desired or not.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay, thank you for your direction.
Okay, yeah, and if I have some time, I might look at the docs and stuff too. So, okay, anything more we want to discuss on that front before we close out for today then? If not, thanks for everybody's time and thanks for everybody who's been watching, and we'll see everybody next week.
All right, talk to y'all later.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.